Welcome back everyone. So for today, we're going to cover the geometry of chess part 2. I would like to start the video with a mistake I made on the last one, and thank you guys for keeping me in check, pun intended. So I had two dark square bishops. When designing these diagrams, I made a mistake. But the important issue was to point out that here you can play rook h8, pinning two bishops, right? Attacking two of them, and they will not be able to protect each other. Okay, so let's see some real examples of this. Okay, so this is white to play, and we have the battery of the rook and the queen aiming at these two bishops, which are misplaced or misaligned, however you want to call it. Now, how do you exploit this? Here we can play knight d4. And let's say, okay, I'm gonna defend. Black tries to defend. Yeah, we can still take the bishop. If they take back with the pawn, yeah, we trade. They can take back with the queen. And now we're much better with white. And this bishop is in trouble. You can pause the video on this one, trying to find two pieces that are on the same diagonal. So, having said that, we see the king and the queen on the same diagonal. We can exploit this weakness by playing queen a7. Once the king moves, doesn't matter where, then we take the queen. Okay, I think that's simple, but we might miss it. What stands out to you on this one? At first, these three pieces on the same diagonal. This isn't very good piece coordination. The second is, I mean, you cannot just play bishop to g4, for example, like you are attacking these three pieces, because that loses the queen. Okay, so we check for threats first. And here we have a second issue of misalignment. The rook and the king are on the same rank. So you can take the rook. Once the knight takes back, you promote to a queen, and now we have the same issue with white. These two pieces on the same rank. Something very similar is happening in this position. You can pause the video now. This is black to play. This king and this rook are on the same rank. So you can exploit this weakness by playing rook a7. Now there is no way to escape this. Let's say white plays c4, and now you can give a check and get the rook. Okay. You're going to misplace your pieces too, but you can fight misalignment with misalignment. So in this case, I was playing with white. Bishop takes on d3, and my two pieces are in trouble, right? Are on the same diagonal. But I was like, okay, wait. These two pieces are also on the same diagonal. So there is a way to explore it by playing knight to h4. And now, like, they cannot play this. Maybe they can go for the queen, for maybe queen e4. So yeah, I will be happy to trade pieces. Okay, if they take my queen, I also take their queen. If they take my rook, I take the rook. And this is an equal position. If you have troubles finding a fork with the knight, there are two simple steps you can take. The first thing is I would draw this matrix, a matrix that starts next to the knight on e4 in this case. It's a 3x3 matrix. And the second thing is look for pieces that are on the same color complex. So we have our knight on dark square, and these two rooks are also on the same color complex. This one is simple. We just take the queen, and once they take, I can fork these two rooks. But before that, why do we draw this matrix? So whenever these two pieces are outside of this matrix, we know we're going to go inside. We're gonna get in. And if the pieces are inside of the matrix, let's say we have a piece, I don't know, here, we're going to go outside of the matrix. Let's say we can give a fork here. So, okay, just to show you here the example, and I will show you more. Here we're forking the two rooks. Right, in this one I already drew the matrix. So, identifying which pieces are on the same color complex is next. It will be the queen and the king, right? So instead of getting inside of the matrix, I go outside. That is the logic behind it. So I just go outside, and I am forking the two pieces, winning the queen. Okay, giving a check again. Okay, this is black to play. I already have my matrix. So if you were wondering, I started drawing my matrix on this square. So I can put it like this. And now identifying which pieces is easy. This is also a misalignment problem. So we have the bishop and the queen. And we can go outside of this matrix to fork the two pieces, right? That is how the geometry of the knight works. So the bishop has to give in, and now, yeah, this is a winning position for black. Something similar happens in this scenario. So the first thing is I will look for pieces that are on the same color complex. In this case, the rook and the queen. Doesn't mean I'm going to fork both of them, but we have the potential to fork them. Now, in this case, the best move is to give a check here with the queen, and then we take this bishop with the rook. The rook has to go back, right, to defend. We can take with check, and now we fork the queen. So see how we got inside of the matrix, and we gave a check to a piece that was outside of the matrix. Let's move on to the critical diagonal, also known as the lone diagonal. So whoever controls these two diagonals has control of the game, and they have more opportunities to win. So in this case, it's black to move. What do you play? Do you push this pawn? Or do you try to stop this pawn from promoting? So you can pause the video now. We have the rule of the square, right? So we know we are on time to stop this pawn, but it also looks tempting. So okay, let's say I push this pawn. The problem with that is I'm gonna get a skewer because now white is going to be on time to control this diagonal. So that's not the right move. We have to go after this pawn. And if white is shouldering us, okay, I'm gonna go here. And I'm also getting out of this diagonal with this move. King e6 gets me out of the diagonal, so I don't have to worry about the skewer. And now, okay, white keeps shouldering us. Now we have this extra tempo to push our pawn. So, okay, what if white doesn't shoulder us and they try to push this pawn? Perfect. We are on time to stop this pawn, and we are controlling these squares, and we are controlling this diagonal. So yeah, white is going to have to, yeah, they have to resign. Exerting control of the critical diagonals is why we've pianchetted the bishop. We put it on the b files or the g files. It can also happen for black. Not because they look good, there is also some symmetry about it, but because they're controlling these long range diagonals, especially these four squares, right? So let's look at one example of this. All right, so in this example, we have tactics, and we have this bishop looking at his king, and we also look for checks, right? So we give a check to the king. Only defensive move is to retreat with the bishop, and now we can give a check. We can even give up the queen because this is going to be checkmate. So yeah, this is a good usage of this long range diagonal, which also coincides with the king being on the same diagonal as the bishop. You can pause the video on this one. This is white to play, and try to figure out what will be the best move, take into account these long range diagonals of the two bishops and also the safety of the king. So, okay, the right move is knight to d5, which seems like a shocker, but now what you're doing is aiming at this h6 square with the combination of the knight and the queen. So if black takes, you take this knight, and if the queen takes, this is mate, right? The only move that continues the game is to actually take this knight and give up the queen. Yeah, this is just winning for white. So yeah, we are using the whole power of this diagonal of the bishop in combination with your other pieces, right? This is a good piece coordination. Now this example is going to be a perfect segue to the next section, which is going to be how to restrict the bishop. But in this one, we are controlling the long diagonal, at least the main squares, these two with the king and these two with the knight, and the bishop can never get in to stop the pawn from promotion. So a move will be king g6. Yeah, we keep pushing the pawn. we can give up the knight, and this comes with check, and yeah, this is completely losing for black. Restricting the bishop might not be as easy as restricting the knight. So here we see two squares apart, and now you can put a bishop that is restricting all these squares for the knight that cannot go anywhere, but it's still possible to restrict the bishop. So let me show you a position where the conditions are met. We have pawns on the light squares same color as the bishop, and this bishop is not going anywhere, he cannot travel. And second, it doesn't have any targets. All of these pawns are in dark squares. So this position is objectively a draw, but it's going to be more difficult to play for white. Now if we change the arrangement of the pawns, now this bishop can actually travel, and it can complement perfectly with these pawns that are in dark squares, and it actually has some targets. So yeah, this position is actually winning for white. So you can start targeting pawns maybe on this side of the board, or even in the two sides of the board. So how do we know that the knight is better than the bishop? There might be certain conditions, but one is that there's going to be a close position like this one. The pawns don't have any squares to travel. The second is there is going to be only one side. All the pawns are arranged on one side of the board or one flank, and there is none here, obviously. So, and now we can so the technique for this is we're gonna start bringing our king almost like in a zigzag manner, and we start infiltrating the position. So yeah, we can start here. We win the pawn, and then we are going to target the other pawn. So yeah, this is just winning for white. I have a question for you here. This is white to play. So okay, we take the knight. Which side do you prefer to play with? Do you prefer to play with black? We have the queen and the bishop, or queen and knight with white. So yeah, the answer is absolutely you want to have the knight in this position, just because you have more winning combinations, more more attacking combinations, and this bishop is very restricted by their own pawns. So here we can start bringing the queen to the other side of the board. Let's say the queen wants to trade, so yeah, this is not really much we can do to prevent promotion. So you bring the knight. That is not what happened in the game. This was a game from Vichy Anand. So this is what actually happened. The queen retreated, and now here you're almost in a sucks one, because black doesn't have any good moves. So yeah, you can even play something like, I don't know, h4. I think that happened later. And yeah, black doesn't really have any good moves. So instead of going to e1, maybe the queen can go here, but it's really passive. So I wouldn't blame this player. And now you can give a check. So yeah. So what really happened in the game was queen e1. Now we give a check with the queen, and black resign a few moves later. So yeah, maybe in queen versus bishop, queen versus knight, I would prefer to play with the knight, especially in these kind of close positions. We use the 3x3 matrix to visualize how the knight moves. We can use it for other things. We're gonna see it with the queen. But just as a fun fact before we move on, how many of these matrices can we draw on a chessboard? So the answer is 36. 36 because if we take into account the initial square from any column or row, we're going to be able to draw 6 from top to bottom, and left to right is always going to be 6. So here, let's say, I'm counting down from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is going to be our initial square to draw this matrix. And if we do the same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then we're gonna draw this matrix. So what happens if we take this as an initial square? It's gonna repeat. It's gonna have to repeat the matrix. Whenever we have the king on an edge of the board, or in this case this rank, then it's easy to visualize that we have mating 1, and the king doesn't have any escapes as we're covering the knight squares around it. So we're having just the king in front of the queen. But what happens if the king is in other side of the board? We want to have the king at the center of this 3x3 matrix. So now if I draw the pattern, I see an arrow. You tell me what you see. Maybe you can also see a triangle that is here, but I see an arrow that is pointing at the queen. Now you have these two spaces to fill in to complete the checkmate. I'm gonna put it with red. So you can do this with different pieces, pretty much all pieces. You can have a knight, for example, filling in these two squares, giving a checkmate. Or you can also have a rook, also a queen, right? You can also have a queen in that corner, or even a bishop. A bishop is going to be on the opposite square of the queen. So this is a dark square queen, and this is a light square bishop. So, or you can also even use the pawns of the opponent. You don't even have to have other pieces. But yeah, you want to fill in these two spaces. Let's see some examples. So this is white to play, and we get h5. Black promotes our queen, which is a huge blunder, because now we give up the pawn. Once the king takes, we can play queen f5. And as you can see, we have the 9 squares covered, including these two, which is our pattern. Here we can play bishop g4, attacking the queen and the knight. And now let's say we get this check on the back rank, and the knight moves. Okay, the king moves and the knight moves. Now we just have mating 1, so we just have queen e7. And if we draw this pattern again, we draw this arrow. It's maybe like sticking out here. Okay, and now we have these two squares that are empty, but that one of these is covered by the bishop, and this one is covered by this pawn. This one is black to play. We get rook g1. This is mating 2. So now we can give a check on b7, and now once the king moves, we deliver checkmate on b4, right? So if we draw this pattern again, we can see the arrow sticking out, and these two squares, well, one of them is being covered by the queen, and the other is covered by the knight. So this is a game I was playing. I had 3 seconds on the clock, and you should be able to see the mating 3, mating 2, and mating 1 with this help. So here you can pause the video to try to figure out. There's different combinations. No, you don't have to follow the combination I log in. So, but yeah, here we have mating 2 after queen c1. I force the king to this edge of the board, and yeah, this is mating 1. So I follow like a ladder slash like a diagonal pattern just to finish the mate, and it was easy to visualize. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna keep working on topics like this, so please comment, like, and subscribe. And I am leaving you with some patterns, a document I found online with beautiful shapes that can be drawn by the different pieces on the board. Alright, take care and see you in the next one.